All right, welcome back to the Wartime edition. The world's in flames, Nick. The stock market has wiped off trillions, but you know what? Look at the colour we have today.
Yeah, which is obviously directly controlled by Bitcoin.
We're so back, baby.
You know what?
We're just
Bitcoin is
above
up
last all-time highs.
25% from lows. We've had a year of just eating it, but you know what? It just took World War III to get a nice little pump going on.
A year of eating it, man. This is like classic crypto sort of, mentality where we think we've been in it for decades, and actually it was like 4 months ago that we're at all-time highs.
When was all-time highs? I forget.
Like October.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So
It
maybe
feels
not.
like every month is worth a couple of years. You knew this.
Yeah, no, and that is how it works in crypto, so it's fair.
Well, look, everything has changed after a whole year. We've just agreed that's how long it's been. Everything seems to be breaking all-time highs when everything was trading at all-time highs except for crypto. But now, look, we're back. Bitcoin saw an unbroken week of daily gains. We're up 8.3% this week, trading around 105,000 Aussie. And Ethereum, Tom Lee will be very happy to tell you, is up 16.4%, finally catching a bit.
It's that meme where, the guy's like fully beaten up, bleeding out of every orifice, is like, looks like he's literally on death's door, and he's like, is that all you got, bro? That's Tom Lee.
Oh, look, oil futures. So it's all going back. I know we are not qualified to talk about Iran, but we're going to talk about it anyway. We're going to talk about Kharg Island, the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah.
I don't know how we're going to tie this back to crypto, but let's give it a whirl.
Go on.
Should I start with it? Do you want to hear my take on this?
I'd love to hear your take.
Well, let me quickly go over the headlines. Because of the war, look, token 22049 in Dubai has been cancelled, and we're probably going to see a rate rise this week as well in Australia. Yep. You know what? Let's get straight into the geopolitics because no one cares about interest rates in Australia anyway. So I've been reading this week spending a lot of time on Twitter trying to separate the AI slop from the realness of what's happening out there in IRL. Now, I've got pieced together. This is my view on Iran. Seeing as we're all just throwing in our 2 cents, is that, there is, on the geopolitical front, there's really now kind of two things going on. One is Trump is trying to resolve, passage of oil from Kharg Island through the Strait of Hormuz, if I pronounce that correctly. But there's other, Israel is now expanding the conflict in the Middle East to fighting some of Iran's proxies over there.
Yeah, so they're not just happy with Iran; they want to hit the other guys too.
That's right. And America's kind of going, hey, look, we have just done something which is pretty incredible. So here's a bit of history for you. During the Iran-Iraq war, there was, Iraq knew that the Kharg Island, which is where 80 to 90% of Iran's oil is shipped from, was kind of their economic centerpiece, right?
Yeah.
If you cut that off, you cut off the economic lifeblood to Iran. So they spent a better half of a decade trying to destroy all of the infrastructure on Kharg Island. The Americans in 60 seconds took out basically all the military infrastructure around Kharg Island and took it over effectively in the space of 60 seconds.
Yeah, something that Iraq couldn't do in a decade.
Which is incredible.
Yeah.
So filtering through all the AI slop, I've seen just so much misinformation and propaganda from both sides, mind you. And it's been really, really difficult to piece together what is actually going on there and how this impacts us here in Australia, and more importantly, how does this affect our Bitcoin bags? It's a bit disingenuous to say we should really care about our Bitcoin bags when there's this war going on. It's, genuinely affects a lot of people. Yeah. But from what I can gather through getting through all the noise is that, we've effectively boiled it down to right now, America's done a lot of the heavy lifting and saying, hey guys, we've got effectively control of Kharg Island, but now we need to make sure the Strait of Hormuz is cleared, right? We don't want the Iranians in there leaving mines. We need the rest of the international community, including, hey, you, China, maybe, because we did this for you, right? We need, multinational support to make sure the oil's flooding here, because I guess the US's objective here really is to make sure there's not economic Armageddon. Whereas Israel, for example, is kind of going, hey, there's a bunch of proxies in places like in southern Lebanon and Yemen, where these groups have been funded by Iran, but not necessarily, direct involvement. And they're going, no, this is our chance to take out them. And the rest of the world's kind of going, you know what, we kind of just want the oil. So Iran...
Anyway, Yemen isn't attacking me, so it doesn't matter.
Right. So here's kind of this is kind of where we are now. This is kind of where we're at, going, hey, the Americans are kind of going, we just want the oil to flow. We've done most of it. Can we just, make sure that oil keeps flowing? And Israel, you just do what you do, but stop dragging us into it.
Yeah.
kind of an interesting sort of delicately poised, I guess, situation there in the Middle East. But it's certainly something that we're keeping an eye of for the macroeconomic impact that it's having on markets in general.
No, I think you bring up a good point with all AI slop stuff. It's difficult enough when, Trump says Iran is like looking for a ceasefire, and then Iran come out and say, no, we're not. You can't even get a straight story from the two sources of this conflict kind of thing. It's really difficult to figure out exactly what is actually happening, and people on the ground. You can't get information from there because information doesn't flow very quickly in a war zone, I guess, and especially in a country like Iran where there's so many things are illegal, like Bitcoin's illegal, and this brings us to an interesting point. I think, with the Iran war and how Bitcoin's been trading recently. So if you haven't been sort of keeping up, the war is affecting a lot of things. Oil is going through the roof. I think it's over $100 a barrel, when historically, I think the average in 2025 is around $70 or $69 or something. Nice. But these days, it's the price is much higher. Stocks are crashing. Gold is stagnating, if not going down. Big gold countries like Dubai, they do a lot of gold trading, if not like one of the highest gold traders in the world. They're really struggling because it's hard to move anything in the moment in Dubai. You're sort of getting, errant missiles flying into your country. People don't really want to deal with that. And here we are in this crazy environment, and Bitcoin is up, as you say, what was it, 12% since the lows or something?
25% from the lows.
25% from those. There we go. And why does it work like this? Or I saw a theory recently which I thought stood out to me as being kind of interesting. When you have a situation where trading the debasement hedge, and debasement hedges, I say this specifically because in a country like Iran, where you're essentially war torn, locked in, you can't get out. There's crazy capital controls. There's crazy pressure from the government to not do this and not do that. They have massive hyperinflation going on at the moment, right? As you would expect in a country in their situation. And so what are the people trying to do? They've got to protect their money. How do you do it? Well, it's tough doing it with gold because you have to physically buy the gold somehow. I don't think they're going to sit there and trade on the futures market. That's not as easy for them to do. Or, and probably more for the younger generation, but you could buy something like Bitcoin, which is, this digital gold that's been talked about forever. And that's starting to happen. So people in Iran apparently are buying so much Bitcoin. And this is, I haven't actually been able to verify this, but apparently the price of Bitcoin in Iran is something like 30% higher than it is elsewhere. Yeah. Just there's a huge premium because they all want it and they can't get it. And it's very difficult. When you're buying Bitcoin in one country, and this is the same kind of thing that happens with South Korea, like the kimchi premium. If there's capital controls and it's difficult to move money in and out of the country, then it becomes its own kind of market, and it's not connected. It's connected only sort of briefly to the global, international market of Bitcoin. Anyway, so Bitcoin's been trading high prices in countries like Dubai. As I said, gold has basically just stopped. So the gold markets can't move their gold because the planes and the ships just don't want to do it. And so, when people are like, okay, well, if we're not doing gold, gold's going down, and Bitcoin's at this super low price, it's under the previous all-time high, it's looking really attractive, it's such an obvious choice. And so it kind of makes sense that the price has just been rallying since basically the panic of the start of the war, where it dropped down to the low 60s. And now everyone's kind of making joining the dots and going, wow, we should probably use this thing because you can transfer it over the internet instantly. You don't have to worry about capital controls. You don't have to worry about ships getting bombed or, sea mines and
people using it what it was meant for.
Yeah, literally the original things we talked about 10 years ago about how good this Bitcoin thing was. It's finally coming to play out.
Just took World War III to get people to realise it. I think we saw a similar thing, and I do remember reading about this in a similar thing. The Ukrainians who were leaving war-torn areas of Ukraine was doing the same thing because they're like, oh, hang on, this is what it's actually for. And we're using that because they couldn't carry, you have to pack your bags and jump in a car and travel 1,000 kilometres. You can't do that with 4 tons of gold, but you can do it with a seed phrase. Yeah,
that makes it even more interesting, right? You don't even need a USB key. You can literally carry money in your head. Just remember 12 words and away you go. Obviously, you eventually need a computer to get it back, but you can move around without it.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so fresh off the press, to change tact a little bit, Australia's news, just fresh blow for mortgage holders as the RBA hikes again. Now we're up to 4.1 in second consecutive increase. Yes, pain on
That
the
wasn't
mortgage
a
front.
cow for those listening. That was Jared booing. Yeah, 4.1%. Well, this is kind of, everyone saw this coming. I think our inflation is getting a bit hot. Petrol prices, like the oil things going up. I think Australia's got something like 30 days of oil reserves, and then we're out. So I know 30 days doesn't seem very long to me. Obviously, we're still getting some oils coming in drips and drabs, but yeah, with the petrol prices going up, like the RBA is going to be sitting there and going, crap, this is going to cause some kind of,
Inflation spike.
Yeah, inflation and inflation that sticks around. Yeah, sticky inflation kind of thing. So they're trying to preempt that, get the interest rates up. I think we're looking down the barrel of another one in May as well. I think everyone a lot of the banks have basically said, yeah, we think they're going to do it 2 in a row.
Great.
Yeah, great. Anyway, maybe if everyone maybe if we all group together and just chill our spending a bit, we can, avoid it. It's possible.
That would be, well, I guess that's what they're trying to foist on you. So you got to preempt them, don't you?
Well, yeah, that's right, exactly. I mean, if we were all smart enough, if we had hive mind, everyone could just talk to each other. And
Jared wakes up, bolt upright at 3 a.m. We have to stop spending.
This reminds me of the Souths and Sydney City Roosters game on the weekend. For anyone who's not initiated, there was a player on one of the teams who was 1 try away from scoring the all-time try record. And so the ground put out an official statement saying anyone that runs on the field after this great milestone is reached will be banned for 12 months and a $5,000 fine. And every single person in the stadium ran onto the field. You can't find us all. So it's the same with the mortgages. If we all decide not to pay, what are they going to do? Take all our houses?
Yeah, I guess.
Oh, there's an idea. There's an idea. Let's all just refuse.
This is now we're talking revolutionary ideas here. It's getting a bit dangerous. I like living in Australia where it's nice and safe and we don't have to worry about Iranian bombs and landmines and stuff going off. I don't really want to have to live through a revolution.
Hey, Jared, on the rugby league front, it was great to see everyone get out there. I think it's outrageous that they said they even threatened that they should, these moments are rare. These moments are rare. I was at the Swans match when Lance Franklin kicked his 1,000th goal, I think it was, Buddy. And it was fantastic. It was such an incredible moment. And I was speaking to some people in the club and they kind of said, look, we know what's going to happen. So they kind of didn't endorse it, but they went, look, let's not be jerks here. Yeah. Let's just have a plan in place that when, the crowd goes nuts, we'll get people off in good time. That's what they did. And good on them. And rugby league, shame on you for trying to hold back the people. I thought you were supposed to be the people's game.
I mean, when you have even the Prime Minister running on, can't find him.
Imagine if he was the only one because they recognised him, he got banned.
Yes.
We've been trying to get rid of this dickhead for ages.
There was some good footage of this little kid. He would have been about 6 years old, and he was posing on the try line. And this is as they're clearing everyone off, and the security comes over and sees the dad about to take the photo, and steps back, lets him take the photo, and then escorts him off. And I'm that's a good moment. No one lost.
That's wholesome.
Yeah.
When Buddy Franklin kicked his 1,000th, he was lining up, and I was directly kind of opposite him across the ground. And I still remember because as he was coming in to kick it, someone was always like, nah, now's my time to be the first one there. And he'd already jumped the fence and he was running. So before the ball had even come off his foot, he was in there going for it. And the ball was kind of leaning towards it. But, there was a real a moment where it was...
It's a possibility.
Yeah.
All's well that ends well.
Yeah. Anyway.
It's kind of like that Japanese soldier that kept fighting 14 years after the end of World War II.
Yeah.
You just wouldn't want to be done in that period, would you?
Yeah, real Schrodinger's cat moment,
So, yes, I would also like to read, I thought, what's a funny tweet, if you can throw that up on screen, about how Trump's handling this. So it's like we can kind of liken this whole Iran thing back to a trade, where Trump going from Venezuela to Iran is basically like me trading. Venezuela, perfect setup. Worked, but I sized it too small. Next trade, I am euphoric. I go 10x size on a shitty setup. Iran. It goes wrong, but I'm trapped. Keep adding size and blame the market for being wrong. Literally, he's like, I think we won already. No, you're way down, but you need to get out of this trade ASAP. Yeah, very good. Anyway.
Nice analysis. So it's really difficult. I mean, the Mandura thing was kind of like they were in, they were out. Now, we were talking about this before, Nick. So interestingly enough, the reports came through that, a lot of this has to do, obviously, with America securing its energy resources, right? That's part of what's going on here in the geopolitics of it all. Venezuela was definitely part of that. And here's a story that I read, that China was in Venezuela at the time when Maduro was kind of nabbed, negotiating like an energy deal with Venezuela. And America was like, not today. Literally under their nose, flew in there, stole Maduro while the Chinese officials were there. And they're like, shit.
Yeah, put some headphones on him and...
What? We had a meeting with this guy tomorrow. It's gone, right? Pivot to Cuba. Thanks, Skynet. Yes, absolutely. The same thing happens. So like now, that Trump is effectively taken over Kharg Island rent-free. And he's kind of going, hey, all the ships here, China, they were meant for you. Like, they were meant for you. Oh, but I have them now, right?
You invented this?
This was for you, but I have it, which is kind of interesting. I don't know what goes on behind, because we see Trump and the US out in public, but privately they must be snickering to themselves going, oh man, we just pulled off 2 epic blagons here. But like you said, I know I said we wouldn't make light of this, but we are, it must be really interesting to see those conversations between, the geopolitical powers who are like seeing this kind of action unfold in real time. Because it's not just little things. These are huge things that impact the nature of whole economies around the world. Yeah. And the US is just going, we're doing it, eh? Anyway.
Yeah, someone's going to break it down into one of those like meme images where it's sort of a chat group and it's like, USA has entered the chat. USA now owns like, hey guys, we just took this. Like China's like, hey, what the hell?
For a long time, I guess, there was, a lot of isolationists in the US who were like, no, we won't do these things. We'll just kind of sit back and say words. And now Trump's like, no, I'm a man of action. Like him or not, but he's a man of action.
I love all those comments from from Trump saying, how come you guys always join the war at the end of wars? I'm like, pot, kettle, black?
Yeah, I was going to say, what happened in World War II?
Yeah. Anyone?
Oh, well.
All right.
You brought up something there I wanted to talk about. I can't remember now.
All right.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Let's move on.
All right. So back home locally, let's talk about some things that aren't nearly as, important on the geopolitical front, but very important to what's happening in crypto in Australia. We are a step closer to Australia's crypto rules being a thing. Yeah. So
again, that wasn't a cow. That was Jared cheering.
Jared, like I said before, and I forgot to note, you'll notice this week I have like a baby-sized sheet.
Yeah. What is this? Paper for ants?
You know what's horrible? Look, these note margins, I got nothing. It's just scribble. And
Why didn't you just print it out in A3 again? I thought you were onto something. You thought you'd like broken the code and the fourth wall was down. And you would...
Well, here's the thing. I printed off, last time I just hit print and it came out. This time I just hit print and it did a different thing. So I kind of blame the printer.
Okay.
Anyway. All right. So back into the news. This week, on Monday, the Senate Economic Legislation Committee had released their report endorsing the passage of bringing crypto into the licensing and, compliance framework that we have as part of an AFSL. Long story short, so for those of you who don't know who the Senate Economic Legislation Committee is, they're the group that kind of sit down and scrutinise bills and propose recommendations, yada, yada, yada. They've kind of said, yep, it makes sense that we should have some safeguards and consumer protection for people who are, running digital asset platforms and custody in particular. So, this is really about, aligning businesses like us, businesses who run custody and hold on behalf of customer client assets, about going, no, you guys should have some minimum standards about how you're going to run your businesses, which is a good thing. It's a really good thing. So long story short, once this all gets passed, we will have 6 months to get a license.
AFS license.
An AFSL.
Yep.
Correct.
Yeah, I was having a chat to our compliance guys about this today, actually. So it seems like, and I'm trying to sort of get to the bottom of, is this licensing regime that we're that's getting proposed, that's getting endorsed at the moment, is this what we want? Or is it actually bad licensing, the Clarity Bill or whatever, one of the bad things that goes on? And basically it sounds like it's generally good stuff. However, there are some interesting things in there. For example, stable coins will probably be classified as an MIS, which is like a security in the US, which means that you will need a markets license to trade or to offer stablecoin trading. So that's sort of an interesting thing that I think crypto exchanges in Australia are going to have to get around, because I think like there's a couple of maybe one or two other stories this week about stablecoins. They're just, they're everywhere, and they're going from strength to strength, and they're definitely not going away. And it's, once this legislation comes in, it's going to be more difficult to do it in Australia, which is a bit of a shame. I guess, like there are some strategies we can employ, and I don't think it's going to just be suddenly there's no stable coins in Australia. But yeah, it will change the landscape a bit. Did you see Stanley Druckenmiller talked about it recently as well? So he's basically endorsing stable coins, saying, look, these things are better, faster, stronger kind of thing.
Yep, 10 to 15 years, he reckons.
Yeah.
It'll be our
pervasive.
standard MO.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, this is something that we, the crypto people, have known all along kind of thing, but it's always good to get those, old school, white dudes in suits kind of, endorsement by like when they come out with these kind of statements. So yeah, anyway.
Well, we're going to see more of it, and this kind of ties into, I guess, another big announcement this week was Ripple, I guess, acquiring in Australia. Who have announced, I guess, they've acquired a business which provides them with the AFSL that we just discussed. Now, this comes off the back of a bit of a buying spree, actually, recently from Ripple in particular, which has, I guess, everyone knows Ripple is, I guess, having the XRP token, which I saw some comments about earlier. But anyway, where am I going with this? They've been on a buying spree recently of a number of licenses, including payment licenses in Singapore, the UAE, UK, now the AFSL. In fact, they bought a company called BC Payments, I believe, which is part of the Banking Circle group, to allow them to expand their payments operations, and they see Australia as one of the major areas. So we know for a long time, because we've been part of the program, they've had their on-demand liquidity, so ODL product, which has been part of, I guess, the build out of this strategy for them merging effectively into a payments business, cross-border payments business, which I guess that's the whole reason that XRP was initially commenced, or the whole idea behind XRP. Now, so this actually kind of goes on to, and I'll get your take on what you think this means for the payment market, or if there is a payment market, because this also comes off the back of them acquiring, I guess, Hidden Roads, which is a prime broker. So they have moved not just into payments, but also acquiring a prime broker, which, how do we think of a prime broker? It's kind of like they're kind of the people who service hedge funds. So everything from execution and custody and reporting, derivatives, swaps, you name it, financing, all kinds of stuff. They're servicing the big end of town effectively. They've also acquired that. So Ripple has been very busy. The question in my mind, and then they've also released the RLUSD, which is a US dollar stablecoin again. Here's that word, stablecoin. What does it mean for XRP though, is my probably question. I mean, Ripple now is so much more than just the tie-in with XRP, which is interesting to see the trajectory of that business now, which is now grown into a huge multi-billion, $500 billion business. Yeah. Incredible.
I think it's an interesting point. Like if we can draw some parallels with Ethereum. So XRP is now essentially, previously was used as the ODL product. So you would buy, if you were doing this cross-border remittance stuff, you'd have two parties in different countries, and party A would buy XRP, send it over the I don't say blockchain, it's called the ledger, I think, for Ripple. Send it over the XRP ledger to the other party, which would be an exchange of sorts in the other country, and then they would sell it for the local currency, and that would be how you'd have this sort of cross-border thing happening. But yeah, now that they're not using it, it's sort of RLUSD is their way forward, which makes total sense to me. Using a floating currency never made sense. So I think it was a good move that they built their own stablecoin and decided to use it. But it does kind of devalue XRP theoretically. So now XRP is essentially just a gas token. And RLUSD, as far as I'm aware, is mainly transacted on Ethereum. You can get it on other blockchains like the XRP ledger. XRP can do tokens as well. But it's like XRP now becomes this gas token and like that, and a speculative asset only. There's no other kind of utility really for it. And so then, it kind of feels to me a bit like Ethereum, where, and we've spoken about this in previous weeks, where Ethereum used to be quite high, the gas requirements used to be quite high in Ethereum. They've done a whole bunch of work to make it much, much, much more efficient. And lo and behold, the meme of the century is how Ethereum never gains, like the price never does anything. Doesn't matter what happens in the market. Ignoring what's happening recently, Ethereum's caught a bit of a bid, which is nice. But yeah, if you like, the historic larger time frame performance has just been absolutely woeful for Ethereum. Is that what is going to befall XRP as well? They're kind of now in this situation where XRP transactions on the XRP ledger are super cheap. So the gas requirements, while they exist, aren't that much. Like people don't. Whereas previously, a lot of people needed to buy Ethereum in decent numbers because transactions did cost a bunch of money. Whereas it's super cheap these days. Ethereum price is now low. I'm not suggesting that Ethereum is only down because of that. There's obviously a bunch of other regions, but yeah, it does sort of make me think like how's XRP going to go if in this new world where it's not actually that useful, or at least not as useful as it used to be. But yeah, I think the bigger picture here is that Ripple is almost sort of divesting from XRP in a way. Like I don't hear them talk about XRP that much, but what they do talk about is payment rails, cross-border remittances, the RLUSD product. Even ODL is sort of not as spoken about as much anymore, I feel. And again, I'm just one person. I'm not doing like deep dives into the XRP sort of ecosystem and what, the press releases are, but this is just my sort of anecdotal feeling.
Yeah, no, it's interesting to watch that business sort of grow, I guess. And like I said, it has been acquiring licenses, it's been acquiring businesses, like I said, and it's now almost like like I said, it's kind of like a financial service conglomerate.
They're trying to do like a full stack kind of, like they're trying to capture everything, which is, I think that's the right thing to do. Like for them, they've got so much money, they need to start earning some, making some profits.
Quick question from Skynet, and it's to do with the rules classifying certain stablecoins as securities. Would that apply to all stablecoins equally, even the AUD pegged ones? And I'm very white. I don't know why.
You're super white. You're a vampire. So the AUD pegged stablecoins, the way the government's looking at it at the moment is. Oh, sorry. Do you want to take this one?
Please.
The way the government's looking at this at the moment is any stable coin that's not originated in Australia and is not advertising to Australians and doesn't have like an Australian presence and all that kind of stuff. So it's sort of outside of Australia. Just decline that phone call. Is not considered. It doesn't have to fall under the AFS rules. So they don't need an AFS license. They don't need to worry about any of that sort of any of the what's it called? ASIC did something with the. I can't remember what it is. Anyway, basically, at the moment, to do a stablecoin, you need an AFS license. But if you are not advertising and not in Australia and not advertising, and not and don't have a presence here, et cetera, then you don't have to worry about it. For AUD stablecoins, they will need to speak to ASIC and get a relief letter, basically.
Which is what the main ones in Australia have done. Yeah,
so this is definitely a possible thing. It's not an impossible task. We've seen like 2 or 3 at least have it now, I think, of the stablecoin providers. And they are allowed to sort of, for almost like a playground, for a period of time, they can act without an AFS or act with a AFS license that isn't crypto specific because one doesn't exist yet. So yes, it does apply to the AUD stablecoins. In that you'll need a markets license to trade it, but again, only once this legislation gets passed, if it gets passed. Skyner's got another question for us. Most of RLUSD is actually on Ethereum, 1.2 bill versus 0.3 bill on their own network. Yeah, that makes total sense to me. And actually, I'm surprised it's only 1.2 bill, so it's 1.5 bill in total. I thought it was more than that. Okay. So I guess with RLUSD, people aren't using it. They're not it doesn't sit in people's wallets. It's a very, very transactional currency that sort of gets used. It has super high utility. So every time it's being transferred, there's like a economic reason for it. There's economic activity happening, but people don't just sit there and hoard it. It's usually it'll get used, it'll get minted, it'll get burned, it'll get it'll be a high turnover, I would say.
But it's the same thing. We see that pattern across all stablecoins, really. I mean, do we know?
I don't know. I think you'll see USD people lock it up in get an APY on it.
I just meant you're correct. I just meant more from an exchange point of view. We kind of see people buy it and they always take it. They do something with it.
Yeah. I think that's the usual thing. I mean, in terms of, our exchange and our sort of hot wallet levels, we've got way more USDC and USDT, but that makes sense, right? Because in DeFi world where you can actually, where stable coins can be used, there's not that many RLUSD pools and, things you can lock it up in and earn yield and stuff like that. It's just not as pervasive. It's very new relative to the others.
Yeah. I'm going to jump over quickly the Clarity Act being stalled because we know it's been stalled. It seems to have taken just a quick, I guess the update there has just simply been that the Senate Majority Leader, John Thune, has basically said, we're still doing it, but first we've got some other priorities, which is like the Save America Act first and the market, well, that's basically it, which is to do with, having like voter registrations and stuff, I believe.
Yeah.
Because there had been sort of, I guess, enough smoke to suggest there had been some real cases of voter fraud taking place on a larger scale in the US.
Yeah. I think Trump sort of poked his head up for a bit last week and said, hey, why aren't you guys doing this crypto thing? And then he just dropped back down again and hasn't talked about it since. Everyone's like, he'll forget about that.
He'll come back.
We can do something else. Yeah.
He'll come back.
It sounds like they're thinking sometime in April we might get some, the wheels might start turning again.
We'll see.
Stuff. Yeah.
I've learnt in the Australian context at least, and I think the US seems to be maybe a little bit better than this, but realistically when people say, hey, it's going to come in April, add on at least 6 months before something happens, really. Or 18 months as the joke was in Australia.
Yes.
But look, we are so close now that surely it's only in 18 months now. Surely this time. All right.
Do we know, in terms of the Australian stuff, when do they next vote on that? Do you know?
18 months.
Oh, okay.
No. It's sooner than that. Look, I remember this. So it's gone through we've got the report back from the Senate Economic Committee, and it's their job to, I guess, go back and research things, ask questions, and go, hey, is this a good thing? Okay, yes. Do we do it? Do we not do it? So it seems like that's the kind of a pretty important hurdle has been passed to actually have it. But there's only so many sitting days, only so many items they can get through. So where exactly that gets scheduled depends on, I guess, the priority of the governments, and anything could pop up. I mean, there is a war going on now, so priorities shift in
a bit of a coup, and this is an exclusive. We'll be actually hosting some politicians in a separate podcast in this studio in the next couple of weeks. We're getting the Assistant Treasurer, Daniel Molino, who was instrumental in getting some of that legislation passed recently.
That's right.
And also, I think Senator Bragg as well will be coming in.
Yep.
So you'll hear it here first.
Yeah, no, I do think we are closer than ever and to getting something, and the fact that it's gone through to this level and there's now actually some, the committee has gone, what, let's do this thing. It's time we act. Seems to be the best cue. But Amy Rose Goody, not to steal her thunder, who runs DECA in Australia, she'll be doing those podcasts, not us, but we'll be hosting them in our studios. If you can call our room here with lights a studio. Technically, I guess so.
Just leave the clout where it is.
All right. Now, Aave, yes, it's Aave time. So this is. I'm going to hand this over to you, Nick, because you've done the research here. CowSwap. Here is a good reason to use an OTC desk. This is. If there is not a better explanation as to why you trade with an OTC desk, please find it for me, because I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, should we just load up those other videos you and I did explaining why?
Jared, run the ads.
Run the ads. We should just reply to the tweet storm about all this stuff. And just post our videos about it. Anyway, for those who don't know, there was this swap done on Aave where a guy sold $50 million or $51 million worth of Aave, and he just sort of closed his eyes, pressed go, and then continued to hammer the go button, didn't matter what the error messages and the warnings said, and ended up with $36,000 worth of Aave, which is just horrible. 50 mil down to 36,000. It's the worst trade ever. I mean, there's been bad trades over long periods, but this thing, this would have happened in seconds. Like, what a trade. Anyway, we don't know who it was.
Do you reckon this guy, you made 50 million, but it's not like you lost it because of the price action, you round tripped it with leverage.
Yeah. You
were sitting there going, each time you're agreeing to being dumber than the last time you pressed that button. That's what really, this dude must have been like, oh, it's done. All right. What am I going to do with my $50 million? No. And he's like, he must have been in that moment where he's like checking his account. I was like, there seems to be an issue here. Where is my money going?
But DeFi will solve this. Crypto solves this. Don't worry. And I just keep pushing. No, it was, yeah. And it's a confounding situation. I don't believe we know who this person is. The people who will know who it is Binance, because that's where he withdrew the 50 mil from. But the next confounding part of this whole story is that Binance have this market on their books. So why couldn't he have just traded it there? Why would he go to... why did he withdraw it to a wallet and then trade it on Aave in the most illiquid market there was? This crappy little... So basically I think it was USDT he had, some kind of wrapped USDT. He withdrew it, it went onto Aave, and then he traded the USDT for Aave, for the Aave token, and it went through... The USDT got routed through WF, wrapped F, and then the routing engine was like, all right, my next stop is Aave, and went to a WF, a WEF Aave pool, and that was where there was just zero liquidity.
There's
it throws up a message saying, hey, you're going to get like 99% slippage here, and the guy's like, sounds good to me. Make it so. And,
there was also reports there was an MEV bot involved.
Yeah, there's multiple MEV bots involved.
Would they be bots controlled or operated by Binance because it's their pools, or...?
No, it's not their pools.
Oh, okay, wasn't
No, so the withdrawal came from Binance. Binance have their own markets on book, like like our Bitcoin Aussie market. They have a USDT Aave market.
Oh, so it was done
right?
on DEX, was it?
This was done on a DEX, but the 50 mil came from a Binance account, and he could have just done it on Binance, and he would have got a bad price as well. Like I don't think the Binance market has 50 mil either, but he wouldn't have reduced it to 36K. And Binance's trading being
it's probably Charles Hoskinson. Thank you, Skynet.
Yeah. I think Skynet is actually just Lee underneath the
maybe Lee's bot has trained it up on Lee.
But I'm blown away. Like you know how you see memes now when like someone receives some information and there's just a like silent moment of just like internal ringing in your head where like you're processing the shock of what you've just received.
Yeah,
that guy when he's just like like he has then gone it's done. I got my 50 million now, and like
finally I'm safely in Aave.
Internal.
Yeah, imagine that. Like you'd probably dissociate.
You would have totally dissociated. And I'm sure, I don't know who this person is, but I imagine at some point, I don't know, maybe he's got like a girlfriend or a wife who's like, honey, we are buying a place in Bali, southern France. Don't worry, I've got this all under control.
Yeah. You can imagine, we're going to dinner. 1 more minute, babe.
Yeah.
And just
buying a house with Aave? Like,
and just before he hits it, he's like, she won't leave me now.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, that guy's single. But the thing is, it maybe 50 mils a drop in the ocean to this guy as well. We just don't know who it
is. If you're playing with 50 mil on a DEX, you have to assume that that's just...
If you're sharp enough operator to whip up 50 million,
yeah.
You don't like giving up 50 million on retardation.
Yeah. So there's a couple of MEV sort of situations here. Skynet's pointed out MEV bot was Titan Builder. I think the one he's talking about there is there was like a famous $9 point something million windfall that one of the bots got from this event. I'm still trying to get to the bottom of how it works. So because it went through, so it was done on the Aave interface, right? He loaded up his Aave thing, connected his wallet, and did the trade on Aave. But Aave under the hood uses CowSwap, and so CowSwap appears a lot in this story. I use CowSwap all the time. It's fantastic. And one of the things I remember when I first started using CowSwap, one of the big advantages of it over, what is it called, Uniswap, or what's the other one, 1inch I used to use, is that CowSwap will, the way their system works, it hides you from the MEV sandwich attacks. So you don't sort of have to worry as much that like you're going to try and buy some token and then some bot's going to come in, put an order before yours, buy it up before you, increase the price, you have to pay more, and then they sell it at the higher price but after you. That's kind of how a sandwich attack works. Yeah. Right? So you don't have to really worry about that. And so the other way that these MEV bots can work, which is less toxic, I suppose, because the toxic MEV happens where you go to place an order and you get a worse fill than you would have if the MEV bots didn't do their thing. The other way that they can sort of make money on this is when this guy did this crazy order, he's pushed the price of, so Aave at the time was about $114. That's the kind of market price for it. This guy, by the end of his trade, was paying $154,000 per Aave. Which is, just ridiculous. Yeah, ridiculous
Why
numbers.
do you think this guy was trying to?
And so what the bots could do at that point is when the price in this pool has been pushed up to this stupid price, they arb it back down again and make a whole bunch of money. But yeah, I feel like it was probably both. I think like there was some sandwiching MEV. It might not be classic sandwich that CowSwap can protect against, but I think like with the way CowSwap works, it tries multiple things. It first tries to get a solver who will fill the order, and if it can't do that, then it goes into a DEX and does things like that. And I think when it hops onto the DEX, it's a bit harder to sort of hide the order, I think. Anyway.
It's just mind blowing. I mean, if you don't just amble your way 50 million in Aave, like you knew what you presumably you were really keen on getting Aave because you had a particular thing in mind.
Yeah, exactly. This Aave, the whole thing is
none of it
weird.
makes sense, and I feel like it's almost just like somebody who has. It's almost like some corporation was like, hey, we need Aave to participate in some big funding thing we're doing, and it was just like some guy was like, some old white dude in a suit was like, I know how to buy things, I'll buy it on DEX, and just hit smash. But I don't know, that doesn't make sense.
It gives me the vibes. I don't know if you've seen sort of my algorithm is throwing me up these videos where like you're watching the video and you're like, what? And it just sort of says, this is the best way to do something. And the person totally does it ass backwards. And you kind of get angry at the video. And then like, if you look closely, you see there's like some guy with a little Hitler moustache in the back. And you're like, what? Like there's all these sort of things that just don't make sense. And like when you take a step back, it's quite funny. Like you look at it and go, some guys made this video where it's like, that is not how you do that thing, whatever the thing is they're claiming they're doing. And then there's these other little Easter eggs in the video. And you're like, this whole thing's set up.
Yeah.
And this is what it feels like to me. Like, $50 million, that's a lot of money. Trading it for Aave, what? Not on Binance when Binance has the market. What? Like, there's all these things that just like don't add up bit by bit. And yeah, maybe this is all just a big marketing stunt. And the MEV, like so Titan, the block proposer Titan was the one like who made a lot of the money. Maybe it was them. Like they're sitting there,
maybe
doing, and I still can't figure out the angle. Like, how do they make money out of this? Well, and they don't necessarily have to because maybe they, sure they lost 50 mil on that trade, but maybe they gained 50 mil on the other side, and so they're net even. But they've just done this as a marketing stunt. But it's pretty risky. Like, I don't know. The big conspiracy theories going on here.
Completely tangential, but did you see there was a sweet marketing? Someone from Netflix pulled this off to advertise a random shark movie or some tornado movie, a bit like Sharknado. I can't even remember the name of the movie.
Yeah, I was going to say,
but
sure.
For St. Paddy's Day in Chicago, they had taken some dirty river that runs through Chicago and made it green as like a Paddy's Day thing. And some Netflix dude was like, you know what? I'm going to get some people talking about my movie. And so sent these like robotic sharks up this filthy river, and a bunch of drunk people who'd been sitting around drinking all day were like, yes, that is awesome. They thought there was some sharks going up the river, and it created a big scene. And everyone was getting their photos out and all this kind of stuff. But it was really just to get people talking, because it's so hard to get eyeballs onto anything nowadays because anyone can get distracted, which is why we've got 5 people on our stream. Otherwise it'd be like 1 million or something. Do you know what I mean? It's really hard to get eyeballs onto things. So like, it was a way to basically do it, and that worked. But that didn't cost $50 million. That was just a couple of robotic sharks.
Yeah.
Well, we got a comment from a user called Jacques V. Adventurer 5120 and said maybe it was Boris Johnson because it's a Ponzi scam. But Skynet goes, the depths of stupidity goes way deeper than most people can imagine. And that brings me to another famous quote, never attribute to malice which can be attributed to pure stupidity.
Oh, that can be adequately explained by stupidity.
Yeah, that's the one.
I mean, the other thing I was thinking of, could it be some guy's kid who's just like randomly clicking buttons on a computer and I don't know.
Wouldn't it pump the price of Aave at all? No, it wouldn't have.
Well, it did
temporarily.
temporarily. But then everything just arbed it back down again to where,
Anyway, crazy story. I guess we'll never know.
Well, maybe,
We might.
Who knows?
Some guy's going to come out, it was me, guys.
Lol.
My wife was about to divorce me and I wanted to make sure she had nothing to take from me.
So
it was purely out of spite and malice.
So he bought some Titan shares and then did this thing to make Titan rich, and then he cashes in.
Maybe.
Like in with his secret Titan shares.
Maybe. Who knows? I'm just speculating here. All right. Next news article, which is kind of interesting. I haven't prepared for it, so I hope you've got something interesting to say about it. Which is less than 1% of Aussie crypto transactions are illicit, according to TRM Labs. The TRM Labs crew were in Australia for Policy Week last week. I did see a few of them floating around the halls. But tell me what you know.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. So it sort of talks about how some guys, okay, let's take a step back here. If we rewind 10 years, every cycle there's always some kind of story about why crypto's not going to work and why crypto's, the devil. And we rewind 10 years, and the reason was because it's only getting used for, drug, like Silk Road was everyone was talking about, and you only buy drugs with it, and you only, pay for hits, and you're doing all this like laundering and illegal stuff. And that was what crypto was used for. And even back then, it was kind of pretty easy to show that wasn't the case. Like the vast majority of crypto wasn't getting used for that stuff. It was getting used to buy two pizzas. But also that the fiat currency has always been used way more for that kind of stuff. It's much easier to use fiat, especially like when you have something like cash. Anyway, so the latest study that these, was it TRM? Have done have basically said, look, they've looked on chain and found that less than 1% of crypto in Australia is being used for like laundering and illicit activities and getting sent to dark markets and stuff like that. That's a pretty low number. So I had a look at this. I had a look at sort of what it looks like in the traditional finance fiat world, and it's hard to get numbers because you don't have, there's no on-chain analytics for fiat. You can't sort of look at everything that's happened and make some inferences. But the UN, where's my notes here? The UN Office on Drugs and Crime have did like a little expose thing and figured out some numbers, and their estimate was that fiat gets used 2 to 5% for laundering. 2 to 5% of global GDP gets used for money laundering. So even if the less than 1% is unders and the 2 to 5% is overs, like it's still. I think it's still clear that fiat is way more popular with the baddies for this kind of stuff. Maybe because it's easier and the baddies haven't figured out how to use computers yet, and eventually they will, or like AI will fix this for them or whatever, and it'll become more. But yeah, at this stage, I don't know. And it always makes sense that fiat is the better way to do it because you don't have these on-chain analytics, and you can't sort of, with crypto, you can get traced right back to the source if you have to be, if you have to. And, tools like chain analysis are getting extremely sophisticated. And there's a bunch of AI tools now that do on-chain analytics and look at patterns and heuristics and stuff and can make really, really educated guesses that we couldn't before. But yeah, so I don't know. I feel like this is actually a good news story. Like this is showing, to me, it's not like, whoa, like almost 1% is getting used for, bad stuff. It's like, no, like compare that to what's happening in the real world. Under 1% is a great number, and we should stop getting harassed for being only used for drugs and killing people.
Yeah, this is the kind of interesting bit for me, and it ties back to the early articles we talked about. In Australia getting legislation and an AFSL regime in place for the industry in general, which I think for people looking at it with the right intentions, and Adrian, our CEO, has always had this intention, is we just need to have this framework in place because, there's consumer protection here that needs to be looked out for. I mean, like independent reserve, for example, and, I won't say the number, but let's say, for example, we've got a bunch of assets on client, held on exchange for the customer. There's no rule currently, and I've said this before, there's no rule currently that says, hey, you need minimum security standards. It's just up to the people who are operating that business to be effectively just good corporate citizens about it and actually go and do those things. But the difference is we've seen this with exchanges. FTX had billions and billions of dollar marketing budget, but, some simple regulatory frameworks about guidance about how they need to structure their business probably would have stopped all the stuff that happened. Didn't exist. So, the external appearance of a business is a very poor way to judge what's happening on the inside. Whereas I guess the whole point of having legislation is it's minimum operating standards really, right? And it's, it's much harder to, if a regulator is coming and look at your business, you have to conform to certain policies, certain standards, internal procedural stuff, security stuff, people with, local directors who have their entire careers and livelihoods on the line to make sure things are correct. Because if you fall afoul of those rules, you go to jail. Right?
There's consequences.
There's consequences for being a bad actor. So once this thing comes through, you'll be very able to see who's doing the right thing and who can't get it. Now, I think, and this is just, I'm not going to name names because I don't actually know the operating standards of other businesses as well as I know the ones here. But I think, broadly speaking, there's a lot of businesses out there like, hey, great, regulations here, good, we'll all get AFSLs and it'll be as easy as applying for your AUSTRAC license. Now, that's just not the case. And there's going to be a lot of businesses that are going to have to do, I think, a lot of internal restructuring to make sure they're up to scratch. And even still, where am I going with all this? A lot of businesses are kind of almost looking at regulation going, oh, sweet, crypto businesses I'm talking about, hey, we'll all get banking accounts after this. And that's also, I don't think, going to be a magic bullet. It's not like all of a sudden you get an AFSL, hey, you get a banking license. Oh, sorry, a bank account. I don't even think that's necessarily a one-to-one either. So a couple of things here will be really, really interesting to see as it applies to the Australian scene is, first of all, who gets a license and who takes longer to get theirs? And then what kind of banking falls off the back of that, if any? Because the banks, as we know, are still very wary about crypto. It's not part of their appetite. And whether AFSL changes their view, because they could still say, hey, we don't want to give you a bank account, even if you have a license.
I just need Trump over here because I think Trump was fighting for the banking, guy. Like we're fighting for the crypto guys to get banking and get equitable banking in the US. It's just like ship him over here for a week.
So it's going to be really, I guess the point I'm trying to make here is it's still going to be really interesting. So even if we get the legislation, it's going to take time to see what impact that has. And it's a major, I guess, hurdle, but whether it has an impact on the banking relationships and whether, banks come forward and go, hey, okay, you guys operate in a standard, we're cool with how you operate. Hey, it's only 1% illegal transaction in Australia. Well, why can't we give you a license? But I don't think it's going to be so clear cut.
Yeah, this is an interesting point you make and something that Skynet mentioned before, like, we have, we're trying to do the right thing. We're less than 1%, yet banks still ask their customers 1,000 questions and block a lot of the time people trying to send money to crypto exchanges. And I'm not sure if that's a fair argument because we do the same thing on our side. So when customers try and withdraw crypto, we're going to ask questions. We want to make sure that they're not getting scammed, and that's kind of what the bank is doing essentially, right?
Totally.
They're trying to make sure that the customer's not getting scammed, and and unfortunately for us, crypto is like an easy thing to see. Even if not much money gets lost through crypto relatively, it's still an easy sort of hole to block on their side. They're like, oh, you're sending to crypto? Nah. Even though like if they even though more money goes out to scammers through the fiat system over a Swift network or whatever, it's easy to kind of block the crypto guys because not only do we is banking tough, every crypto exchange's banking is extremely well known to the banks. They know exactly what account numbers and BSBs you have and etc. And to put a block on that is just trivial. So I see why they're doing it. It definitely sucks. I think the system they have in place needs an overhaul, and we need a way to prove to the banks that we are sophisticated and we know what we're doing and we're not getting scammed. But conversely, if we do make a mistake, then we take full responsibility, kind of thing. Like it's easier said than done. It's a grey area, but I don't think it's as. Unfortunately, it's not as easy as just going, oh, there's less than 1%, let us all send our money wherever it is, because we're going to still be blocking people withdrawing crypto when we see them and they're like, they're unsophisticated, they're 100 years old and they're trying to withdraw like 17 Bitcoin to some address that's super busy. Like, oh, mate, this is not looking good at all for you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've got a question and a concept brought up in the chat. So the title of our video is Crypto's Big Bounce Despite the Iran War. And a question from Florida Swamp Donkey
Nice name.
What do you mean despite the war? War is good for Bitcoin. When two countries decide to go to war with each other and start printing money to fund it, it's good for us Bitcoiners. Do you agree, disagree? There's some comments from Scott as well.
Jared, it's interesting that you're reading the question out because you wrote the titles. So I feel like you should answer this question.
No.
It's great. It's a great point. It's actually a really good point because here's the thing. This is only my quick take because last week we talked about this, and sometimes it's very easy to say, "Hey, the price is pumping because of the war," but is it because of the war? Is it? I mean, these are the narratives we kind of like a little bit, said, oh, it just happens to be that they're crossing over, therefore they must be related.
Correlation's not causation.
Correlation's not causation. So the short answer is, I guess no one really knows is the nature of these things.
I think it's an interesting point. I think, to be fair, the title that Jared was going for was, if I paraphrase what he actually meant, was around, everything else, all other equities, assets kind of seem to be falling away, including gold, which is very, we like to think is a very similar sort of parallel to Bitcoin, and yet Bitcoin is up, like Bitcoin's market cap is up 240 bill when gold's market cap, gold and silver are down literally trillions of dollars, kind of thing. So it's definitely it's moving in the opposite direction to what you might think if everything was correlated. Everyone, and this is another sort of narrative that's been in previous cycles, but people want to see Bitcoin as an uncorrelated asset. They don't want it to be moving in lockstep with the equities market. They don't want it to be moving in lockstep with gold. They want it to be uncorrelated because that means that people are going to then, have to allocate to Bitcoin. You're going to need. You don't want you don't want your investment portfolio to be fully correlated with itself, because then it means when times are good it's great, when times are bad you're in trouble, kind of thing. You want a balanced portfolio, which would mean if Bitcoin is uncorrelated, everyone would sort of have to allocate to Bitcoin. And so these movements here that we're seeing where Bitcoin's going up and everything else is going down is fantastic for that kind of narrative. And it really sort of throws me back years ago. I remember thinking and talking about this and reading in the forums and everyone talking about it, and it kind of died away. No one really talks about it. Everyone got caught up with other stuff, but we're back, baby. And so is it because of the war? Yeah, I think so. Well, the other thing I think we need to overlay on this is that if Bitcoin were right now at all-time high prices, would we be seeing continued pushing up through the through the price levels, or is it because Bitcoin basically bottomed out when our CTO sold, and now like it's an easy one for people to pump, like for the market to look at and go, okay, there's value there because it was already so low. So I don't know if it's. Yeah, I don't know if I could say it's necessarily pumping because of the war, but the war definitely has something to do with it.
Yeah.
And as we sort of talked about before, Bitcoin is a perfect asset for this kind of environment where you want to be able to transfer things when physical goods can't be transferred because of bombs
and well, I guess probably some evidence we can point to, which we talked about earlier, is the premium in Iran, and so a lot of price movements sometimes just need a catalyst, I guess.
Yeah.
Whereas a particular event, can maybe trigger some price action, which means that you end up getting tailwinds from that particular.
It's interesting
catalyst.
again though, like when you think about the premium in Iran, there is a premium in Iran because the market is isolated. So in a way you could say the war in Iran, or at least for the Iranians, isn't pumping Bitcoin because Bitcoin's kind of shielded because Iran can't actually, like, there's no flow of funds.
Is that just a fancy way of saying we don't know, Nick?
Skynet points out that the theory that war creates economic growth is called the broken window fallacy, where the economic stimulus that's brought about through war is just replacing damaged or broken or destroyed items. You're not actually pumping money into an economy, you're just replacing things that are broken.
That's fascinating. It's fascinating.
But you're still creating, like, people still have to go out and build things, and yes, things are broken, but that doesn't mean there's no value. Like,
the activity comes.
People have to go and, like, the builders are getting there down on their knees and building brick walls and whatever, and they're getting paid, and then they're using that money to go and buy. I feel like I'm not sure if I agree with that, but I'm not an economic expert. So
is it like when Homer Simpson got promoted, and as a result of his promotion, workplace incidences dropped? As Smithers points out, it was believed that Homer Simpson caused 90% of those accidents.
To contradict himself further, Skynet goes on to say, the bombs falling today weren't produced with recently printed money. They were in a stockpile for years, so if anything, the replenishing of munitions is yet to occur.
Well,
Good
we're
point.
going to have to print for some of that. We'll need some more printing.
Money printers go burr. So. Yeah, well, that gives us one of our best narratives. Hey, we've been running for close to an hour, and we haven't even got through all our topics. And Jared, you haven't even told us what your 3am idea is yet. We got some important segments to cover off.
What do we got left? I'm out.
What? No. Mastercard has joined the Global Crypto Partner Program.
Boring.
Blah blah blah. Stablecoins. Blah blah blah.
Yeah. Mastercard have been talking about, like, not that.
Well, Visa and Mastercard now. Look, I'll give the 30-second brief.
Go, please.
Which is basically that I guess a little bit of context. Visa and Mastercard have huge networks, and the idea of a peer-to-peer payment system, arguably could mean that you don't need those networks anymore because there's a peer-to-peer network that's taking place where people could just trade.
Okay.
So if you have a network, much like Visa or Mastercard, you may be interested in adopting this new technology to make sure that your network is part of the facilitation of this new peer-to-peer network as a kind of a safe way to do it.
This is them protecting against becoming the next Kodak, I guess. You don't want to end up like those guys.
But TLDR, they effectively allowing, at a high level, really just people can now settle their liabilities on the network using stablecoins.
Let me be the naysayer on this article. I feel like Coinbase, where'd that come from? I feel like Mastercard have been constantly and forever releasing things about crypto and how they're doing this and connecting these rails and building this platforms and, you know, integrating with this and partnering with this and not to like shit on Mastercard. I think I'm pro this activity, right? They're trying to get involved, but I just feel like they haven't figured it out yet. And again, maybe I'm being naive. Maybe this is the time they've figured it out and it's all going to launch from here. But is that the feeling you have as well? Like they're constantly in the news. I'm always hearing about Mastercard doing something, and every time I see it, I'm like, show me the results. Like they're just having a bunch of meetings with people and you know, high-fiving, and then does anything actually get built? I don't know.
Look, I don't know. I mean, we've got some... It seems almost like a lot of so many businesses are out there going, hey, we are definitely committed to doing something.
Yeah.
It's a bit that vibe, and they know they've got to do something. They're looking at it, but they're also, in their defense, if I was going to play devil's advocate for them, they're big organizations with legacy tech, and do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Shifting that is like shifting an aircraft carrier.
It's difficult.
And it's not super easy, so you can't be like, hey, you just said you're going to do it, and it's been a month.
No, I mean, it hasn't been a month though. That's the
but
thing.
even a
It's
couple
been
years.
4 or 5 years at least.
Yeah, but I still want to see some results. And maybe that's and again, maybe they've built a bunch of cool stuff and they're just not parroting it. Like they're just not blasting it from the rooftops. They're just like, okay, that's built, we're using it.
Or nothing's happened.
Surely, yeah. I mean, I guess
I don't know.
some news outlets would be talking about it. But.
My hot take on Mastercard and Visa and stuff. You know, when you were first learning about crypto, and one of the main metrics you like to talk about was TPS, and you'd always compare it against Mastercard or Visa's 37,000 or whatever it is. Yeah. If I was Mastercard or Visa, I'd be turning up each year going, we've increased to this amount or this amount, because they should be able to do that, but you hear nothing about that. So, so that's my hot take.
Yeah, I guess no, it's a fair point. Like, I don't know how many they do. They got a theoretical limit. What do they actually do on average per day? You don't hear that much about that stuff in crypto. Oh, I suppose maybe it's because, as you say, as a centralized sort of entity, they can just increase it sort of not arbitrarily, but they can kind of, it's not too difficult. Whereas in crypto, it's a real problem. Like, it's the blockchain trilemma. You got to, if you increase this one, then something else suffers. Whereas maybe they don't. No, it's an interesting point, though. I like that. I think it's something to think about.
There's one more news article which is worthy. The AI.
Oh, the AI.
What's AI? I don't think I read this one.
Well, there you go. It's
the bits and pieces, the first.
Oh, okay. No, I probably didn't read
AI.
this one.
My time. I think we've been through this before. My timeline, cleansing my timeline of AI slop is almost impossible right now because we were talking about this before, where like you jump on X and it's like it rage baits you because it just gives you back what you've been engaging with. And normally you see something like that's outrageous or that's stupid, I'm going to get on there and vent my spleen, and then just gives you more of it. And you're like, how do I cleanse my timeline to? I guess I should be engaging with things I like as opposed to things I'm mad about.
So it's just furries.
No, well, I told you, like, right now, the good stuff that I get on one of my social media platforms is the guys who are like commenting over there, like and dressing up and like role playing into video games. Oh, Jared, I don't know if we can pull one up.
Is it like the Civil War reenactment people?
Yes, those guys. And I don't know why this is a guilty pleasure right now because I'm not really into that kind of stuff. But like the dudes who are like living it, and that's what I find fascinating. These dudes are absolutely living it. There's like the World War I games where the guy dresses up with his like World War I costume, and he's like "Tally ho, charge!" and he's like blows the whistle, and his guys go over, and he comments on it. No, it's World War. Not the guys who are actually dressing up and doing it. I'm talking about the computer. I'm talking way more nerdy than that, Jared.
You've lost me.
God damn it, Jared.
I'll save you some. I'll show you some select reels from my news, my favorites list, so you can see.
Like, why does it keep serving?
You can see what AI has done for me, and it'll give you a peek into what I've been. I guess I've been wasting too much time on social media.
Well, they say that every middle-aged man ends up in World War II history, so.
There's a meme which is like, when you become, am I middle-aged? What? Maybe.
Depends how old you get.
Yeah. Anyway, there's the thing. It's like there's people riding bikes, there's golf, there's the lawn, and there's a barbecue. It's like your personality will come to be defined by one of these four things. Dude, I'm on like 3 out of 4 already.
I've given up on my lawn.
Everything except for bike riding, golf, my lawn, barbecuing. I'm just a walking cliche. It's terrible.
Gold prospecting should be in there.
Gold prospect.
Well, anyway. Anything else, Nick? Got some highlights for your week?
No, but I don't know. Do you want to talk about that AI thing? We kind of went off track.
I thought we just did. Go for it.
No, I've got nothing to say. So the AI story is that...
What's on your time? What's on your feed these days, Nick?
Probably mostly Minecraft stuff, actually. So I play Minecraft with my daughter, and there's this adult version, not adult like sexy version, but like a couple of dudes make these Minecraft videos, and it's kind of just like them superimposed on Minecraft kind of scenery, and they're just like playing out a little skit, and it's pretty funny. Like they're just, when you haven't joined a world for 10 years, and like they pop in, they're like, oh wow, I can't believe it, this looks awesome, and it's like the most horrible thing they've ever built. I mean, do we think that used to look good? It's all that kind of stuff. That's probably mostly my feed.
I have an apology to one of our viewers, Florida Swamp Monkey. I called you Florida Swamp Donkey, and I apologise profusely from the bottom of my heart.
Yeah, so anyway, AI stuff, just to quickly go over that. That was really important. Thanks, Jared. So apparently there was a report out saying that something like, I can't remember what it was, $24 million of transactional activity was done by AI. And then some other like AI company, A16Z, I think, came out and said, actually, it's like 1.6 million. It's not 24 million.
Just chill out,
It's just, it's not, it's definitely going to happen. Don't worry, but it's nothing like 24 million. That's why I probably I wasn't going to talk about this one because it was a bit like this big thing was suggested and it actually wasn't true. Anyway, I think I think we spoke about last week, AI bots are doing, are going to sort of start doing more things with crypto. There was a report I saw, which I can't remember we spoke about last week, but basically some guy did a study on a whole bunch of different AIs and talked them through, what asset would you use to transfer and hold value and stuff like that. And all of them said crypto. None of them said they would use fiat. And they all said, like the overwhelming consensus was that they would all use stablecoins to do like transactional stuff, and they'd all use Bitcoin to hold value. So, and I thought that was pretty cool, when the AI do eventually take over, which is imminent. That's when finally my bags will pump when I can't use it anymore because I've been shot by an AI bot. The other thing I thought was interesting from that paragraph was around Circle. So I'm not sure if you saw Circle have, according to one guy, higher transactional volume than USDT as of for the last month or something.
There you go.
Which is wild because USDT is has been for so long the absolute king of stablecoins, and the market cap is, I'm going to say, 3 times that of USDC of Circle's stablecoin, and yet it seems like maybe what we were talking about before, a lot of people are just hodling their USDT and not actually using it for stuff, whereas USDC is actually getting turned over and used a lot. Is most of the USDC turnover because people are just selling, like every dollar of USDT that gets moved gets turned into USDC, and so it's sort of like anything counted in USDT adds to USDCs, and then USDC has other transactional stuff happening as well. I don't know, but I thought that was a pretty interesting stat because USDC was never considered like a real contender, yet here we are. Yeah, I think that's probably it.
Nice. Well,
that's the time.
We've done it.
Yeah, good.
We've made it through another week. All right. Well, thanks. We got a few viewers. We've got lots of comments today.
60-something comments in the chat today.
All right.
It's on fire.
Yeah, thanks for getting involved, guys.
Thanks for getting involved.
Swamp Monkey, not
Thanks.
Donkey.
Swamp Monkey.
My manager sent me a message over Slack saying you called the monkey a donkey, and so that's why you got a quick
You don't want to get
midstream
fired. That's
apology.
Jared's looking after his
So the
job.
ultimate question from Skynet is the bottom in.
Well, actually, I'm disappointed in myself because I was planning on doing a bunch of victory laps this week. Because last week
I was encouraging you to do victory laps.
I know, and I sort of very tentatively called the bottom last week. I feel, and I think we're like almost there. Come on, guys, who's with me?
Yeah. And our CTO,
whatever.
that was the bottom signal.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know, Nick.
Classic counter trade.
Look, I just want more conviction in your call there. That's all I was looking for.
I was unconvinced.
It was like, like your victory lap should have been like the, metaphorically, you just doing burnouts on your neighbour's lawn.
Yeah.
Like real confident.
Calling up Jared, hey, come and film this.
Like, it's just overt display of confidence, but instead you've kind of went, oh, yay.
No, I don't know. Let's everyone watch the last episode. I talked about the bottom was in, and here we are, and it's in. I don't know. I'm calling it in for now. Definitely. Like we've recovered. What was your number again? Sorry, I've forgotten. 25% from the bottom. Like it's a good number. Like that's where everything's looking healthy. And another stat that you have no idea what it means, but the fear and greed index is up to 25. Now this is kind of good for me. So it's still well into the fear zone.
Look at me smirk like I knew what that meant.
Yeah, it's still okay. There we go, 28. So anything below 50 is sort of where we're in trouble kind of thing. Yeah. Now we bottomed on the fear and greed index, assuming that was the bottom, at 6. We're up to 28 now. 28 isn't euphoria by any means. So I'm not sort of worried that people are too excited and we're just going to have to dump again before we can, healthily continue this, uptrend. But we're still in clear fear territory, which is a good sign for me. It means people aren't too crazy and they're not just sitting there longing, every long and selling their house and buying Bitcoin or whatever.
Well, the only victory lap I'll claim is that, okay, I don't know, well, maybe, I feel like the bottom is probably in, but during the dip, the people who sit around me, some of them had more conviction than others, and you can quote every one of them because, maybe if anyone listening, you should comment to confirm that I said this. And I said, dips are for buying, not for crying. And I said it every day when they were sitting there going, oh, should I buy? And I said, you just do it.
You gave out pure financial advice.
I said, dips are for buying, not for crying. Listen. You make your own decisions. Do your own research.
Do what you are. Therefore, I don't go to jail.
But I definitely said dips are for buying, not for crying. But I didn't say what.
Yeah, okay.
According to Skynet, we'll all be rich, but it'll be Mad Max, and we'll be driving around following fuel tankers
that's my worry.
Giant
you don't have to
babies
worry.
called Bommy Knocker.
Nick Derv, I mentioned that I've got a battery on my house now.
So there's energy crisis.
Give me a monocle. Give me a monocle on a top hat because I'm an energy baron.
Lee's house is made of pure energy. The only thing is
Tesla driving around.
No. When I look at my battery app all the time, and if it's like my battery's full, I'm like, I even if no one's home, I'll just be like, quick,
turn the aircon on.
Turn the aircon on. She's like, no, I'm already freezing. We'll put a jumper on and open the window.
Turn the heating on and the aircon on then.
If we don't use this energy, it's going to go to waste.
You just walk around with batteries in your trench coat.
Yeah, it's.
Got some kilowatts for you, man.
Kilowatt.
Yeah. No, get yourself batteries. I don't know if that's financial advice, but look, once you got some batteries and some solar panels, you feel great. You look at your power bill like,
the sense of self-satisfaction is off the charts.
Yeah. Yep. I could power my house with my smugness.
Yeah.
If only you could harness it, it would power my second EV I'm going to buy.
That could be an interesting quote, like powering my house with my batteries, powering the entire neighborhood with my smugness.
I've seen plenty. Seen plenty of memes. It was about the guy, the smug guy at barbecues, like talking about his EV. Yeah. Like now is a better time. The smugness is just off the charts. If you could have longed my smugness at the pre-battery, you would be retired.
I have a solar and a Tesla Powerwall set up at my house. Right, I've got a little Nuriometer which helps you track the power flow throughout the house. If that little $20 bit of equipment's not working, your solar doesn't work, your battery doesn't work.
What?
And
it seems like a critical
failure
failure point.
In the middle of summer, and my bills have tripled in the time, and that's how much I've been saving. I didn't know how much I was saving.
So did you pay another $20 or too much?
I'm still waiting for the Tesla to come around. They're really busy at the moment, apparently.
What?
As you can imagine.
Yeah, wow.
That's unfortunate, Jared.
Yeah.
Have you heard about Lee's solar?
Would you like to know how much I'm saving?
The new Smug Wall 3.
The Smug Wall 3. Well, as you know, Captain Planet, remember they had wind, they had solar, they had all the renewables, and they had heart, which was just a fancy word for being smug. You need all the elements, right?
What's Earth? How does Earth work?
I don't know. Oil?
But how dumb was the fifth guy's power heart? All he could do was like summon monkeys.
Talk to animals, yeah.
The other guy could like make volcanoes happen. He's just like, I can make birds pleasant.
I make the birds chirp.
Yeah, he shuts them up while the volcano guy does his work.
Actually, speaking again of Captain Planet, I know massive diversion, but I liked how the show started while the USSR, while like the Soviet Union was a thing. And then it kept going after the fall of the Soviet Union. And so to change the entire intro going, Linka from the Soviet Union. And the voice actually changed.
Oh, really?
Over the some part. But there's a really cool story about how Captain Planet was literally just propaganda created to tank one business, and it worked.
What?
And-
Really?
Yeah. So the a full do script next week.
Okay.
Tune in.
Look forward to that.
All right, we have digressed enough. I think we've gone well enough off track that we can save it for next week. Thanks for stopping by. You know the time, you know the place. We'll see you then. Thanks, Nick.
Gotcha.
Thanks, Jared.
Yo.
Bye-bye.
Lee and Nick with the moonshot flow. Dispatch live, let the market glow. Crypto vibes where the numbers show. To the moon we go, let the podcast blow. Digital coin